I have a sense that among the Dagara people there is a real concern with the soul, the evolution of the soul or spirit of each person who is born into that village.
That's correct.
I would imagine a sense of some kind of purpose of the Dagara people themselves.
Yes, that's true. The function of the soul is extremely carefully examined, because the soul is not an entity that has a start and an end. The soul is in constant orbital mode between the land of the ancestors and the land of the tribe. And so what happened is that the general impression that they give to the soul is that it goes to the ancestor in order to recharge itself and to build up a purpose or a plan, then takes on a spacesuit, enters the cosmos, into the tribe, execute that mission, then return back to brief or debrief among the ancestors, and to receive again new charges, new mission to be performed here.
Now, of course, in the Western world, there is some small amount of scientific interest in this question of the nature of the soul and the nature of other dimensions with which we interact. And in some cultures, like the Tibetan culture, there's a very evolved knowledge. But I sense that in your community, the Dagara people have also developed a highly evolved working relationship between the world of the tribe and the world of the ancestors.
In fact, that's a kind of rhythm, that is a spiritual rhythm that the village live by. In other words, it determines the whole cultural fabric, and as well as the nature of the interaction between member of the same village, member of the same tribe, etc. Because the kind of respect which is given to the soul is the same as the respect that is given to the ancestor, because soul means an ageless entity that is preparing itself to bring a substantial contribution to the betterment, to the stability of a community, a given community. In this case, it's either a village or an entire tribe. And so therefore, the one thing that people get interested in is not so much the physical constitution, but the containment, or what is contained within that physical appearance. Because that is the one that contains the truth, the information that lead to the exact identity of the kind of physical appearance that we have in front of us.
You even write about, in a very interesting way, in reference to your grandfather, who was your teacher when you were a child, about how sometimes he would take on a very smelly characteristic. He wouldn't wash, and he would cultivate really pungent, powerful odors around him. And this was related to maintaining the purity of the souls.
In fact, that's true. The ancestral land is recognizable by an attractive smell.
It's unattractive.
An attractive smell.
Yes.
And anything that smells bad, in other words, is something that is reminiscent of the proximity of such a world. Therefore, it is not uncommon to see elders who, therefore, are said to be moving slowly toward embarking for that world, to actually do their own dress rehearsal in terms of scent, negligence of physical appearance, simply because of the gradual greater and greater focus on matters pertaining to the soul.
Yes.
And of course, those of us who are still in the growing process find that quite repulsive, to say the least. And that translates, of course, the difference between the young and inexperienced human being, as opposed to the one that has almost completed his journey and is about to go on and join hand with the ancestors.
And, well, it's just the opposite of sort of the conventional wisdom that cleanliness is next to godliness.
Well, that's right. That's right. You know, there's room here, of course, to at least admit to the fact that, you know, what is embraced by one culture can be seen as upside down in another culture. And in my village, of course, the tendency for the elders, of course, to be very cold in front of very correct physical appearance translate the fact that that appearance is more connected to a desire to stick around here, to stick around in this area, than a desire to actually show attraction toward the other world.
Yes. Your grandfather, who was your teacher, was also considered, would you say, a magician or a healer, a wise man? All of these things, I
It's
guess.
actually, yeah, all of these things combined. You know, titles are very hard to come by in the village itself. But he was seen as one of the depository of the values of the ancestors, the values of the tribe. He performed a lot of healings on a daily basis on people, some of whom were coming from pretty far away, outside of the tribal limits, the village limits was most of the case. But he was also a person who was very versed in what I will call the science of magic, who knew how to surveil, for instance, the farm from his room. The farm was 8 miles away. And at night, for some reason, he had forgotten to sleep, and he would sit there and look through a clay pot full of water. And while you would see water, he would see the whole picture of the farm. And that, of course, if you want to look at it from a purely Western point of view, that's magical.
It's like crystal gazing.
Well, that's right. It's like crystal gazing. But it's also something that is based on certain subtle knowledge that only maybe a healer, a medicine man, and of course a priest of the traditional world is expected to know and to be able to demonstrate, not publicly, but at least to show that these are the means by which he assumes his responsibilities.
You've written that among the Dagara people, there many different esoteric arts were practiced, and there were many different esoteric societies, each promoting a different specialized practice, and that although the tribal group was very open to accepting these things, it was very important that the esoteric practices be kept secret.
That's right. This is because of the belief that is common in the village, that the hidden is alive and potent. In order to maintain power, I mean true power, that power must be hidden. You must surround that power with a great deal of secrecy. And therefore, disclosure of power was signs that that power was in the process of decay.
Yes.
So for some reason, becoming visible, or what they call entering the visible realm, was signs of sudden gradual erosion. Now, indeed, those different sources of knowledge that were currently practiced or exhibited in the village were done so by different group of people who sometimes would be in competition with one another. But that competition was mostly expressed in terms of how thick a veil of secrecy surrounded their power. But within this different magical association, if I may use that term, there was a certain kind of innate knowledge of the other having something that the one need. And so there was this constant spying of one another for a little bit of the secret that the other possessed. So it's really a very complex situation, because one never knows what is going on under the water. On the surface, everything looked fine, but underneath, where all the power are wielded and played around. It was an extremely complex world indeed.